charge against you, Whitehawk, and that any future mark on your record will mean immediate dismissal, perhaps further proceedings under our charter? Yes, sir. Mixed team? That was a jolt. Mixed teams were special. Why, with his record smeared apparently past redemption, had he been given a mixed team status, even temporarily? You will ship out at 14 hours on the Marco Polo, with a personal kit not to exceed 1 shoulder bag. The team has been established dirtside 5 months now, and are fully supplied. And Whitehawk, just one more mistake, and it may mean the labor gangs for you. Yes, sir. Of course, mixed teamwork was dangerous. Cade wondered if they used such duty as a form of discipline now and then. Exile and possible execution in one? No, team responsibilities were too important to suggest they were a disposal for the unwanted. Mixed teams were sent to open up trade on those primitive planets ruled, but not colonized by the Sioux, undeveloped worlds with native races held in peonage by the alien lords. Cade thought about the Sioux as he sorted gear in his quarters, trying to be objective, not influenced by his personal dislike for the aliens. Physically, they were humanoid enough to pass at least as cousins of the Terrans. Mentally and emotionally, the two species were parsecs apart. The Sioux had built their star empire long ago. Now, it was beginning to crack a little at the seams. However, they still had galactic armadas able to reduce an enemy planet to a cinder, and they dominated 2/3 of the inhabited and inhabitable worlds. So far, their might could not be challenged by the League. Thus, there was an uneasy truce, diplomacy and trade. Traders went where the patrol of the League could not diplomatically venture. In the beginning of Terran galactic expansion, some Sioux lords had attempted to profit by that fact. Traders had died in slave pens, been killed in other various unpleasant ways. But the response of the service had been swift and effective. Trade with the offending lord, planet, or system had been cut off, and the Sioux found themselves without luxuries and products which had become necessities. Exploiting the wealth of worlds, they needed trade to keep from stagnating and to bolster up their economic structure. The Sioux themselves now considering such an occupation below their own allowed employments of politics and war, and the Terrans were there to be used. With an inborn belief in their godship, and weapons superior to any possessed by the Terran upstarts, the Sioux continued their empire. Sioux lords dealt with any rebellion by a subject race drastically. Believing themselves invincible, they tolerated the Terrans. But fire smoldered, never quite dying into ashes. Let one subject world make a successful resistance. Cade detoured about a mound of crates on his way to the ship pickup platform. He caught the pungent reek of animal odor and glanced at the contents of the nearest, making out a furred ball 3/4 buried in soft pack. The prisoner of the cage had already been needled into sleep for the takeoff, but it was plainly live cargo, and Cade was surprised. Not many shippers could afford the high rates for animal cartage across the star lanes. Aboard the Marco Polo, he found his own cramped cabin, endured the discomfort of takeoff impatiently. When free to shuck his acceleration straps, he reached eagerly for the portable tape reader, which could supply him with all the Terran information on Clore. The instructive sequence of pictures crossing the palm-sized screen absorbed him. This was an encyclopedia of knowledge stripped to the essentials. As he studied, Cade was teased by an odd sense that something in this combination of history, geography, and trade lore was hauntingly familiar, but he could not single out any fact he was sure he had known before. Along his spine crept that chill which warns the fighting man of an ambush ahead, one no other sense has disclosed. Yet there was nothing more dangerous on Clore, as far as these records went, than on 6 other frontier worlds he could name. The man whose place he was filling, how had Rostov put it? Lost by an act of violence. Cade